Alright, it's time for the solutions for the inequality proofs assignment. So on this one, you'll have an inequality that you need to solve, and as you do that, you need to write down the proofs, as in the properties that lets you do the different operations that you'll do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it down here and do my work down below, because I just make it a little bit easier. And then we'll have the proof here on the right side for these problems. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And what lets me do that is the subtraction property of inequalities. And if you do that, 13 minus 9 is going to give me 4 greater than or equal to negative 4a. And that's just a simplifying step. And now I'm going to divide by negative 4. Divide by negative 4, and whenever you divide both sides on an inequality by a negative, you have to change the direction, and on the left side we're now going to have negative 1. So what lets me divide is the division property of inequality, and that also accounts for the turning of that inequality symbol. And then I just simplified to get to the last part there, and now I have negative 1 is less than or equal to a, so go to negative 1. And I need to shade the side that makes this true. Well, the numbers that are bigger than negative 1, as in negative 1's less than them, are those to the right. So shade that, put an arrow on the end, and since it says less than or equal to, we're going to fill in that circle. So at negative 1, it goes from there. Alright, moving on to the next one on number 2. What I'm going to do here first is just distribute that negative 4 through. And what lets me do that is the distributive property. Negative 4 times that positive 2 there, that's going to give you a negative 8, or subtract 8. So that's why it's that way. What lets me do that is the distributive property. And then I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And what lets me do that is the addition property. That should say add property of inequalities. And if I simplify, I'll get this next step, which is negative 4v greater than or equal to 16. And now I'm going to divide by that negative 4. And what lets me do that is the division property of inequality. And when you do that, you have to flip the direction of the inequality. Oh, that's not going to be 16. 16 divided by negative 4 is negative 4. And that comes about by simplifying. And now we have our final answer here. V is less than or equal to negative 4. So go to negative 4, put your circle there. Less than negative 4 would mean all the numbers to the left of negative 4. So shade that way, put a little arrow there on the end to let you know it's going left. And since this has a less than or equal to, I'm going to fill in that little circle there at negative 4. Moving over to 3, my first step again is going to be the distributive property. I'm going to distribute that 10 through. 10 times m is 10m. 10 times negative 10 is negative 100. Left side still negative 40, and that comes about by the distributive property. And now I'm going to get rid of that 100 on the right side by adding 100 to both sides. And what lets me do that is the addition property of inequality. I said inequality, yeah, okay. And because we're dealing with the inequality, not equality. Left side, when you simplify, becomes 60. And the right side becomes just 10m. And now I'm going to get rid of that 10 that's in front of the m by dividing both sides by 10. What lets me do that is the division property of inequality. And if I simplify what's going on there, I'm going to have m on the right side, and on the left side just 6, because 60 divided by 10 is just 6. And now I have my final inequality. 6 is less than m. So if you go to m, you put your open circle there. You need to shade what side that all the m numbers are. Well, any number that's bigger than 6 would mean that 6 is less than it. So we're going to shade here to the right side. Put an arrow though. and we're going to keep that open because it's just less than. On number 4, really you saw this one, you have to get rid of that 1. So what you do to one side, do to the other. What lets you do that is the subtraction property of inequality. And now I'm at 8m greater than or equal to 40. And if you divide by that 8 on both sides, sorry, I didn't put the simplify step. So simplify, and if you use the division property of inequality with that 8, and then simplify, you're going to get m greater than or equal to 5. Because 40 divided by 8 is 5. So now we got m greater than or equal to 5. So go to 5, put your open circle there. Shade the numbers that are bigger, because m is the numbers bigger than 5. So that's to the right. Put an arrow there. And then we're going to fill in the circle because it says greater than or equal to. If we move over to 5, this one, I'm going to get my x's on the left side. So I'm going to just subtract 5x from both sides first. And what lets me do that is the subtraction property of inequality. And if I then combine like terms, I'm just going to call it CLT. Combine like terms, on the right side, I'm just going to have negative 8. Here, combine all of those guys together. Negative 2x and negative 5x make negative 7x. And then you add in that 6x, negative 7x plus negative 6x. Plus 6x is going to give you negative x. And now if I just divide by negative 1 on both sides, and I can do that by the division property of inequality, and then simplify, will let me know what I have at the end. I need to switch direction for my inequality because this number that I'm dividing by is negative. So x is less than or equal to 8. And that's my final answer. And so I'm going to go to 8, put a circle there, and I need to shade all the numbers less than 8, because x is less than 8. So that's shading to the left. And I'm going to fill in that circle because it says less than or equal to. Just like that. And moving on to 6, I'm going to start out by just simplifying, because I want to combine those real quick on the right side. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. And on the left side, 11 minus 2a is still just 11 minus 2a. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's put the variable on the right side. So I'm going to add 2a to both sides. And I can do that because the addition property of inequalities. And if I then simplify, I'm looking at 11 greater than 3a minus 1. If I then add 1 to both sides and simplify, and that's another addition property of inequality, followed by a simplify, I'm looking at 12 greater than 3a. If I then use my division property of inequality to divide both sides by 3, over here on the right side, I'm going to put the simplified version, which is going to be 4 greater than a. So that's going to be my final answer there. So I'm going to go to 4 to graph this. Circle 4, and 4 is greater than a. So all the numbers a are going to have to be less than 4, which are going to be to the left side. So shade to the left, and be good to go. We are not going to fill in that circle because it's just greater than instead of greater than or equal to. And on to the last ones. On this right side, we need to get rid of that parentheses, so we're going to use the distributive property to multiply through with that negative 3. Left side is still going to be 25 plus v. But the right side is going to have negative 3v plus 21, because negative 3 times times negative 7 is going to be positive 21. And now I'm going to add 3v to both sides. And that what lets me do that is the addition property of inequalities. If I then simplify, I'm looking at 21 on the right side, and on the left side 25 plus 4v. And if I then subtract by 25 on both sides, oh, that should be 25, not 52. What lets me do that is the subtraction property of inequalities, followed by simplifying will get me my next step here. Left side, just 4v. Right side is negative 4. If you divide by 4 at this point, using the division property of inequalities, I'm going to have v greater than or equal to negative 1. That's followed by simplifying. I have my answer. V is greater than or equal to negative 1. So go to negative 1, give that a circle, and we need v to be greater than that, so we're going to shade to the right. So all the v's are going to be to the right. And since this says greater than or equal to, we're going to fill that guy in just like that. And moving on to 8, I'm going to start out by using my distributive property to simplify this left side a little bit. We'll get rid of the parentheses. 3 times r and 3 times negative 2 is going to give me 3r minus 6, which needs to be greater than negative 6 plus 3r. If you really look closely at this right now, you'll notice we have the same thing on each side. And if you have the same thing on each side, no matter what you do, if you keep going with your steps here, you'll get 0 greater than 0. Yeah, you'll get that. You'll get 0 greater than 0. And so when you have that and you look at your statement here and decide if that's true. Is 0 greater than 0? Some of you might think, yeah, no, it is not, because that says strictly greater than, not greater than or equal to, and so this guy here is going to have no solution. If you move over to 9 and use your distributive property right at the first, you can get things so things can start to combine. Negative 7 times 4 is negative 28. Negative 7 times positive n is negative 7n, greater than or equal to. Negative 6 times n is negative 6n. And negative 6 times negative 7 is going to be negative, not 30, negative 42. I'm now going to be adding a lot. I'm going to use the addition property of inequality to add 6n to both sides. And I'm going to add 28 to both sides. I'm going to do this one step. Because all of that, I'm just using the addition property of inequality. And I'm going to follow it by simplify to get things combining like terms and all that good stuff. Left side, 28's gone. Negative 7n plus 6n is negative 1n. And on the right side, the n's are gone. Negative 42 plus 28 is going to give you for negative 14. Okay, yeah. And then our last step is really just to use the division property of inequality to divide both sides by negative 1. And if you then simplify, you're looking at n greater than or equal to, oh, messed that up. Since I divided by a negative, I need to switch the direction, so it's going to be n less than or equal to positive 14. So if you go to 14, put a circle there, n is less than or equal to, so I need to shade left, put a little arrow there, and I'm going to fill it in because it says less than or equal to. And then our last one for today's assignment, I'm going to start out with the distributive property. So I'm going to distribute what's in front of the parentheses to get rid of it. To get negative 6 plus 2n plus 4 less than 3 plus 3n minus 2. I'm now going to simplify each side. I notice that 3 and negative 2 are going to make 1. 3n doesn't change. Negative 6 and 4 are going to give us negative 2. And now I'm going to subtract 2n from both sides. And I can do that because of the subtraction property of inequality. And then I'm going to simplify to get negative 2 less than 1 plus n. I'm now going to subtract n from both sides and simplify. So that's just the subtraction property of inequality, followed by simplify again to get negative 3 less than n. So that's going to be my final answer. Go to negative 3, put a circle there, and I need to say that negative 3 is less than n, so n has to be all the numbers bigger than negative 3 in order for negative 3 to be less than them. So our graph's going to look like that. It's going to be open circle because it's just less than and not equal to. And there's our solutions.